Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on Dro TV. It has been a pleasure talking with Mike today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Go ahead and follow me at The Mommy Jane on all your social medias that you enjoy, and visit me at www.themommyjane.com, and I'll see you in the neighborhood.
Welcome to My First Time, the show about your first time getting high on marijuana. I'm your host, Mike Freeman with Dro TV. Today, I'd like to welcome our guest, Jessie Gonzalez. How are you?
Hi, Mike. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. It's so great to be here.
Yes, thank you for coming on Dro TV today. You can find more of Jessie on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, as well as Tokativity at The Mommy Jane. We'll have all the links down below. So Jessie, really excited to talk with you today. Please let everybody know where you're located and what you do in the cannabis world.
Hi, everyone. I am, as Mike said, the Mommy Jane, and I live in Northern California, where I was born and raised without a stigma of cannabis, and I'm very proud to say that. I've lived in California my whole life. I've even lived in SoCal, where there's a little bit more stigma prevalent, but I feel like in recent years, especially since the pandemic, we've actually seen a more of an acceptance with cannabis since it became an essential business during that time. So very grateful for the progress that we made as a state. But I came onto the scene on Instagram to normalize cannabis for parents and especially women in general. And secondly, I've actually had the blessings over the past few years to help guide people into this industry, whether it be through personal branding or, content creation as well. And that's kind of like where my focus is. Actually, they're both still my focus. I still do both every single day. I educate on so many levels, and I'm looking forward to educating today too.
Awesome. That's part of the purpose of this show is education and destigmatization. So you are one of the perfect guests. That's awesome. So looking forward to whatever it is you can educate us on today. But first, we have to start with your first time story. The show's my first time. So please let us know about the first time. This was in Northern California.
Yes, actually, that's funny that you said that. I will tell you, I'll tell you about two different first times, because I'll tell you my first time in Northern California was at 13. Everybody has their like teenage sleepover story. You got your the big sister stash and you're partaking, and don't get me wrong, that was so influential because that was the first time I felt the bliss, that bliss that's inexplainable, where you're laughing till you're crying and you can't breathe, and you're eating Cheetos and drinking Sprite and just like living your best life because you're a teenager and just blissed out with all your best friends, right? Sure. So I have that story, and that's very important, but I didn't really like partake until years later again, and didn't understand it until like I would say like I discovered Mary Jane 3 times in my life. So the first one being 13 and like all that hilarity. The second time in my like early 20s, where I was just kind of like, I don't really like alcohol, but I really want to unwind, and I didn't understand why I was like gravitating towards that. And then in my 30s, where I was like, I can't drink alcohol anymore. It really destroys my body and I need an alternative. So we'll talk about that last time, because that's the most impactful one. Because I feel like a lot of us see cannabis only people think that they don't use it medicinally, and that's where they're wrong. And I feel that recreational cannabis is still used medicinally, because chances are you're using it recreationally to help your social anxiety or to help you unwind and relax and de-stress. And in my mind, those are things that you would normally take a medicine for, or an alternative herb for, whether it be chamomile tea or a Xanax. You go into social situations and you medicate. So bringing it back, I was a heavy drinker because that was so much more socially acceptable, as I was just saying, in SoCal. And so for my late 20s and early 30s, I was heavy into the wine culture, especially because I was a mom. And with moms, that was like the peak. The 2000s and the 2010s were like peak wine mom culture years, where they were having like the rosé all day t-shirts and like it's wine o'clock somewhere and all those things, and like happy hour becoming more prevalent, like that 3 to 5 hour thing at all restaurants were all of a sudden doing it, not just bars anymore. And so I was so into wine culture, and I had just obtained a new friend who happened to be from the same area that I was originally from in Northern California. So that was like already very cosmic. And of course, it would take a Northern California mom to change my life the way she did. And so obviously, like I'm had my stint with Mary Jane in my life, but it had been years since had a chance to actually have it on me because I was living in the desert. And if you don't know anybody, then how are you going to find it, right?
Sure.
So we're out having a mom's night out, and she pulls me into the women's restroom. She goes, do you need to use the restroom? And I was like, okay. Like kind of wondering why. And so we put the little thing on our drinks and walk out to the bathroom. And she hands me this, well, obviously it was a pen. It didn't look like this, obviously 10 years ago, but she hands me a pen, a vape pen. And was like, hey, do you smoke cannabis? I was like, wait, there's cannabis in this thing? Because think about that. I went from smoking out of cans,
Sure.
smoking joints, smoking bongs, smoking gravity bongs. I never in my life had seen a device that looked like a freaking ballpoint pen with a little tip on it to inhale some cannabinoids. And so this was way back in the day when vapes first came out. So it was like a dark brown color, totally questionable. I don't even know. I would like to say it was Jetty, but we don't even know because it was the desert. It might have even been like a knockoff version of whatever Jetty was. So it was like this dark brown questionable vape. And I'm in the stall with her. We were like in the stall together. And I'm hitting this vape pen. And I felt like just everything in my world just came crashing down on me in such a good way. Like all of a sudden it was like whoosh, and you're in focus mode and you feel that relief in your shoulders immediately, and you forget like how good you feel. You forget sometimes if you take a break, for those of us that don't have access to it and you finally get a chance to have it again, it's like, oh my God, is this what normal feels like? Because if that's the case, I want this every single day. And so obviously, time after time, or time goes on and you get a chance to like, try other things and all that stuff. But I am so grateful for that, because if it wasn't for that pen and that experience with that mom, it wouldn't have opened my eyes to the possibility of switching out of alcohol. Because I went back to that seat that night and I realized that my drinks weren't being drunken as fast. I was kind of pulling back on that. And I'd already was explaining earlier that I kind of wanted to pull away from that lifestyle anyway, because I knew it wasn't beneficial to me and myself and or my family. You can't really be a great mom if you're an alcoholic, believe it or not. Contrary to what society might make you believe, you are not the greatest mom in the world when you're drinking every day. And so that moment, that first time that I call, like whenever people ask me that, like I really see that as my first time, because I feel like that was the first time when I realized that this could be a really big opportunity, and not only for myself, but for other mothers out there, because I knew around me how many people were drinking. The bars were full that day and the tables were full. And there's a wait for getting, a seat at these tables. And so, and you look around at restaurants and you'll see there's alcohol on every table these days. It's really hard to not see it and not have it all in your face. And, if you guys are watching and you drink, and that's, your choice. But for myself, it was very damaging in my life. And I'm so grateful that first time happened again for me. And I was able to see it with like such free and filter-free eyes. And it's because of that journey that I even did what I did. It was within months I created the Mommy G, because of that first time. So that's why when people ask me the first time, yes, my first time was 1997, and I was listening to probably, like Tupac, and we were eating a bunch of junk food at my friend's house just down the street. It was like on the same street that I grew up in. And that was a great moment too, but just really, there's just different reasons why we enjoy Mary Jane. And that's what's the best. It's like, I almost feel like every day is the chance to have that first time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us. When you say Northern California, are we like close to the most popular, well-known Humboldt County, or are we closer to like San Francisco, Viejo area?
I am about 10 minutes from the city and about an hour from the Emerald Triangle, the tip of the triangle facing downward. So
Okay.
I would be right there.
Okay.
But it's beautiful and it's easily accessible. An hour is not very far. To get to Mendocino County in about an hour it's worth the drive.
Excellent. Awesome. Any E40 in the mix too, or just Tupac? Or
Oh, okay. E40 is very near and dear to me.
okay.
I love E40, and those that know me know that I have a soft spot for E40. I also love Too Short. I spent a lot of time in the East Bay. I was in the music industry in my late teens and early 20s, and had the privilege of my first blunt was actually smoked with Too Short when I was like, I can't even, I don't, I dare not disclose my age on that one.
Wow. Okay,
But
no
I
worries.
will say that we were both wearing velour tracksuits because at the time that was very in fashion. His
Mm,
was like a male's version, or I shouldn't say male, but excuse me, more a masculine version. And mine was like the hoodie juicy couture that the girls were wearing in that time. But yeah, my first blunt was with Too Short at a recording studio in Oakland.
wow, big time, big time. I like that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you didn't know who E40 was, I wasn't going to go to Too Short, but you brought up Too Short before I got to E40, so you're in it.
You can't have one without the other, right?
I mean, you mentioned rap, so I'm like, oh, you mentioned Northern California. I'm big into the hip hop scene and E40 Too Short. I'm in Orlando, Florida, but I've been a DJ since I was 15. So I'm
Mike, that's the coolest.
yeah, yeah. I was actually out in you know who G Coop is? He's a record
No, I don't, but
producer.
I'm gonna check them out after this.
He's a record producer. He's got a couple platinum plaques. One, he produced a couple Nelly songs. He's co-producer of Bad and Bougie. He actually
Okay, I know Bad and Bougie, and I love Nelly also. So
okay.
yes, I'm probably very
So
familiar with this work.
we were fortunate enough. I have a small record label as well. One of my artists was fortunate enough to we went out to San Francisco, Oakland. We shot a music video and we recorded a song in G Coop Studio. This is about 5 or 6 years ago. But yeah, I love the Bay. My aunt lived in San Francisco for like 30 years, so I've been out there numerous times, and I love the Bay. Love the Bay.
Yeah, it's hard to. I dare find somebody who grew up in the '90s in the Bay and didn't have some hip hop in their life. You know, that was when like Wild, I think it was called, the radio station Wild 90. Oh, I don't remember right now. It's probably still around, but yeah, there. I don't listen to radio as much anymore. But we had, and they had the California Music Channel. They were always throwing the music videos up on that too. So yeah, very very grateful to grow up in the '90s. I'm a proud old millennial.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. And anyone watching this who doesn't know, now they're educated in a little Bay Area rap. Now you can go check out E40 and the Click and Too Short, and there's a lot of great Bay Area artists. We were actually featured in a magazine, One World magazine. They're out of the Oakland area, and they still publish a physical magazine.
Yes, the East Bay still is big in the zines.
Yeah,
Honestly, it's amazing to see that print is not dead in the East Bay.
yeah, yeah. I really like the scene out there. A lot of great artists, and a great scene in general. I mean, all the albums E40's come out with, Too Short has come out with. It's like they're legends in the game, but there's probably people in the Bay that don't care or don't know about anybody else because they have all these amazing artists at their fingertips, and more power to them. So
Yeah, and they're still performing. Can
still
you believe
performing.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
So there's a little rap history lesson as well. So let's talk more about Mommy Jane. You told us your why you started Mommy Jane. Let's fast forward a little bit to today and talk about some of the things that you do on your website and for individuals.
Okay, so I have done coaching one-on-one, but I found that I could actually influence people on a greater level if I did something that was more evergreen. And so I partnered with Tokativity, as you mentioned earlier, and they're a huge global community network that actually has chapters all over. And we created a guide together to help people build their brand on social media, because think about it. I started this two industries that I didn't know no one knew anything about. Cannabis was new 5 years ago. Social media marketing was so new 5 years ago. And so I went in with blinders, not knowing what the heck I was doing. And I was so grateful because I found the right people along the way, and I just did a lot of really good guesswork, I guess. I mean, I really have no other explanation for it because I didn't go to school. There was no universities offering that at the time. I just got very lucky. I was very honest, and my focus was from the get go education. I love that you said earlier one of my slogans is education is destigmatization, and so it was my plan to educate the masses to help those other moms for them to discover the vape pen in the bathroom and see how their world could come together and they can feel that focus and that relief and that de-stress and so I don't want to gatekeep this industry. I don't want to gatekeep content creation. I don't want to gatekeep moms who use cannabis. I want everybody to have those tools. And so that's why I created that guide. That's why I have the page that I have. And that's why I continue to do what I do every single day. You know, sometimes I say things that are a little controversial on my page, but if we're not educating and bending, you know, our words and our truths a little bit and understanding different aspects of this industry, then we're not growing and we're not learning. Pain is, or growth is painful, and education is you know, some things we don't want to learn, sometimes we have to learn. So I'm really grateful for the chance that I have and the platform that I have and the community that I have that supports me. And if you guys are watching today and you want to kind of, you know, walk on the wild side with cannabis and talk about things that might be a little controversial, then come take a look at my page. Every week I'm trying to start some sort of fire in a good way.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah. It was Jeff Lebowski who said, new shit has come to light, man. You know, so,
Love that quote.
with more education, we're armed with more knowledge to go out there and either make a difference or make more educated decisions for ourselves, which you're doing. What are like the biggest things you see that people need to be educated about when you're, whether it's just people commenting on posts or through social media or even through coaching?
You know, I feel like one of the most important things right now is opening your eyes to other cannabinoids. We've had such a hype with THC for decades, and I don't get me wrong, I love myself an infused pre-roll, okay? However, there are so many other beneficial cannabinoids. The plant itself is a superfood for a reason, not just because of THC. I mean, they have the omega 3s and the 6s and the 9s, and raw cannabis is beneficial. And, you know, just giving other minor cannabinoids a chance because they impact in such a major way. I wouldn't be the person I was today without CBN. I would be living with so much more anxiety because for me personally and how I receive cannabinoids, CBD doesn't cut it all the time for my stress. I need something a little more. And so I turn to other cannabinoids to work together and give me what I need in order to perform my best and give me homeostasis and let me feel human again, right? Like we were talking about that first time feeling. And so I hope people open themselves up to cannabinoid education. And I hope they open themselves up to maybe the fact that cannabis, it can be a crutch at times. And maybe we should look into other modalities of healing and not always think that cannabis is going to be a cure-all for our problems or the one thing we can lean on when times are bad. I know I've been guilty of that. And that's why I want to talk about it. Because if felt guilty before it, then maybe other people have also relied on it in times when they probably could have turned to other things. And so just having like deeper conversations now that I've been here for 5 years, you know, there's only so many times I can introduce people to CBD, but like, let's talk about why we buy CBD, where we're buying it. Do we know our source? Does CBD work for you? And if not, have you tried other ways to get that CBD in your system? And so I'll allow those moms that are new on deck to have those newer conversations that are important to bring the new pages and faces in. But like for my people that have been here, the neighborhood, the neighbors that have been there for a long time, I want to go deep with them, and I want to go deeper with them in 2023 and do more long form content and do more on YouTube and you know, looking forward to so much feedback from everybody as I change and I grow and evolve with them.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, it seems like you are certainly making a difference. Any recent testimonials, something that like touched your heart, somebody that you helped, whether it was through
Oh, Mike, every
building up
day.
an influencer?
I
Okay,
honestly,
awesome.
Yeah, every day I get feedback about how I didn't know this information until now. I'm so glad I found your page, or I need to show you my friend this page. She's been looking for someone like you, or I've been looking for ways to get into this industry. Thank you for sharing these tips. Or I've had a really hard time, with content creation. Do you have any tips for that? So I get everything between like gratitude to questions of like, how do I do what you do? Because I want people to be able to do this too. It's a fun job. I feel like this is the way, if we put our faces out there, that we are out there showing a healthy lifestyle. I mean, I'm mentally ill. I do my best to balance that, but showing our best like ways that we can keep ourselves maintained, and I show both sides. I know not everybody shows both sides of their mental health online, but I do. I talk about when I'm depressed, and I talk about when I'm going through depression, and I've had years for that. I mean, years and years went by on my page where I'm like, I'm in a depressed mode, you guys. My content is not going to be what you expect it to be, and this is just the truth, because the truth is it's not always sunshine and rainbows. And like I said earlier, cannabis isn't a cure all. I have to make sure that I'm also doing other things that are keeping myself maintained. And yes, cannabis is on the belt. It's like the belt buckle, but it's not the only thing that's keeping me together.
Awesome. I like that answer. Hey, everybody. I want to quickly mention Food Forest Abundance. Food Forest Abundance is a great way to create your own self-sustaining food forest and naturally occurring ecosystem that's commonly found in nature, but designed specifically for you. Through multiple layers of trees, shrubs, herbs, vines, rhizomes, mushrooms, and perennial vegetables, you can become your own supply chain without the typical maintenance required of a garden. From small spaces to large areas, both urban and suburban, Food Forest Abundance wants us to get back to our roots in nature by engaging with our food production in a meaningful way. For more information, click on the link in the description below and start your journey today. Okay, let's get back to today's episode. We've been doing this less than a year. I would imagine people that reach out to you, they've been doing this weeks, months, years, and they need some help. And like I was saying, it might be nice to be an influencer. That's certainly something we wouldn't mind being, but at the same time, we have a specific idea and a goal of what we want to do here at Dro TV. But what is some of the easiest ways to I guess, remove the people that aren't serious about actually becoming influencers and utilizing social media to build an audience?
It breaks my heart sometimes because I see people, especially people that have really big platforms, and I just often wonder, like, this is, you have like the biggest microphone in the world, and this is how you're going to use it. So remember that when you're you don't know how big you're going to get. So make sure you set your page out with intention. I was just talking to my family about this the other day, because there's so many steps that I didn't have along the way that I wish I had, but I had no idea it was going to do this and be this big. There's no way, Mike. I was anonymous when I first started out. I wasn't showing my face. I wasn't showing my name. I was using the moniker, the Mommy Jane. And so obviously it's evolved to what it is. And I'm so grateful that I could be the voice in the name at a time when there was no mom out there doing what I was doing. So if you are watching this today and you're seeking that lifestyle, first of all, yeah, go for it. Just make sure you're not boring, first of all, because you can't change that. That's one thing. Like, you can't change a personality. If you know deep down that you're like not a very extroverted person, and you're just kind of like, not all of us have high energy, that's fine. But if like, people know, you got to have some sort of charisma. You can't be a dud. And film yourself a couple times and see, what you like and what you would want to work on, as far as like, make sure you're using your hands. That's one thing I learned about. I was very lucky to be on television in my 20s. And the thing that producers always want you talking with their hands. It helps so much. And a lot of TED Talks, the ones that are very, very high up, are the ones of people that are actually using their hands while they're talking. So make sure you're not boring. Make sure you set your intentions, and make sure that you have integrity. I see people just working with brands just for the sake of monetary gains. And I could be a millionaire if I said yes to all the brands that reached out to me, but I also have zero chances of sleeping at night because I could not sleep on that freaking bed. There's no way my head could hit the pillow and I would be comfortable with myself. So I'm very particular with who I partner with. And when you're branding yourself and you're starting out and you make your mood board, make sure that that brand makes sense on that mood board with you. Make sure it makes sense with your colors. Make sure it makes sense with your values. Make sure it just makes sense with your audience too. It's not even just about you, it's about your audience. So at some point in the beginning, you're starting it because it's for you. But at some point, you get an audience and it's all about them. And you have to keep them in mind and make sure that they're happy as well, because that's what we're here for, right? We're here to make content, to educate, to entertain, to bring value to people's lives. So make sure that you never lose sight of that, no matter how big you get.
Awesome. Great stuff. Some free tips for anybody watching. It's funny. I try to talk less with my hands because my girl doesn't like it. But I notice I went to broadcasting school. I did a lot of audio and TV production in high school and after high school. Like I said, I was a DJ. So, and I would always notice the news anchors, they always do this when talking to someone. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. I feel like it's just like a natural reflex reaction to nod your head. But the hands, I didn't realize more hands, or I guess more physicality, is a better thing.
Yes, especially with reels these days. Think about it. You have a little, talking head.
Sure.
Yes, the comments are going, but what's going to draw you is if there's some sort of hand motion going on too. Even politicians use it.
This is true. This is true.
Sorry to use the P word on here.
Hey, we're censorship free, so
Right.
And this is the first time I've heard it referred to as the P word, so I might have to take that myself.
Thank you.
It makes one of my favorite songs a different song now. OPP by Naughty by Nature.
Yes. Man, we've had some similar tastes. I believe our record collection would look very similar.
I would imagine we have a very cool record collection if we put it together, I'm sure.
I agree.
Jessie, it was awesome having this conversation. I'd love to have another conversation down the road again. Please let everybody know where they can find more of you.
All right, everybody. If you liked what you heard today, come follow me on the neighborhood at the Mommy Jane on Instagram and any other platform that you choose. Look for me in 2023 on YouTube, where I will be doing long form education, and I'm always open to feedback. So come find me and check out my guide with Tokativity at tokativity.com/themommyjane.
And we'll make it easy for you. All the links will be down below. So definitely go give Jessie a follow at the Mommy Jane. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you got to go down there and smash that like button for Jessie. Great conversation, some excellent tips for those of you out there. See, I'm using my hands. And make sure you're also subscribed to Dro TV here on YouTube, because as always, if you didn't, you would miss amazing guests like Jessie and interviews like this one. So make sure you subscribe. Appreciate it. Thank you very much again for coming on the show. That's it for today's episode, everybody. And as always, smoke them if you got them.
Cheers.
What's up, Dro TV family? You can now stream the audio version of all these episodes on your favorite podcast player. And if you like more episodes like this, check out this playlist we put together over here for you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube. You don't want to miss more great content from Dro TV. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, smoke them if you got them.